The year is 2023. Your high school friends need two roles filled for their lineup in that game you thought South Korea scared us away from. They also know you have a history of PC games growing up and have nothing better to do than wake up scrolling through TikTok. So you say, shoot, I'll bite. And on the League of Legends website, see yourself staring down the barrel of 162 champions and 100 plus items to custom build them. On top of that, Riot Games has poured the military budget of several small countries over 10 years into making it a global strategic competition trying to rival the likes of chess. Hi, my name is Corey, and for 10 years I've had a League of Legends account, for better or worse, that I've played off and on. And I can say I am somewhat confident that I can tell you what's going on in most games, and I'm also somewhat confident about knowing all the tools the games give you, like champions, items, and runes. So that may be a little daunting for new players that I have 10 years in this, and I'm giving you that level of response. But today we're going to see what strategies people use to streamline that process, and if people even want to go through that process in general. You say you understand how to play chess, you know how all the pieces move. But the problem is, in League of Legends, these are all of your pieces. Yeah. And then on top of the print on all these tools, there's implications to them. Like for champions, Darius being the bully that doesn't want to see you make it to be a CEO. And then there's Kale, who is that CEO who got bullied in high school. And if you're the type of person that likes trial and error and finding that stuff out for yourself, that's a good thing. Because Riot Games wasn't going to tell you anyways, because they want you to play more, so you can buy more skins, so you can feed their parent company that wants to rule the world. But you know who doesn't have a financial agenda are the beautiful respondents, the 100 plus of them, to my surveys for non-gamers, general gamers, and League of Legends specific gamers that can tell you their thoughts. So in going through the responses, there are three main questions we're going to want to address. And those are how much do you / have you played League or a game of similar complexity? And what knowledge or prestige do you have to show for it? The next one is how would you or do you ease in the learning process? And then the third one is evaluating it in general, just how much you liked it. Like in the same way Ivan Pavlov trained dogs to salivate when they hear the sound of a bell, like thinking they're getting fed. Did you like the process of getting like slammed by an or an ultimate, this sound effect, until you learned, hey, I need to move side to side a lot. And before we move into the responses, I want to make one thing clear, in that you don't need to be a know-it-all to enjoy these games. Every now and then, for example, I boot up Smite, I pick Bologna, strap 3 weapons around, and avoid things that'll probably do bad things to me, and I have a good time. But the popularity of League of Legends makes it all the more competitive and compelling to take to the next level. So despite what pretentious people would tell you,
perfection in team play. When I say low velo, I mean like anything really below challenger, like really good players, like high.
all of my League of Legends specific survey respondents are respectable in rank, especially for how much time they've put in. And if there's one thing they all have in common, they all claim to have a very good fundamental understanding of all the tools available to them. So on my survey, I listed out some heuristics or methods to learning the game just to see which ones they agree with. It's definitely not all your lanes. And for the most part, they believe raw experience trumps all. But to facilitate that, they like to clump abilities, champions, and items into categories and generally play around those and say like, okay, so this opponent has a dash. They can move quickly, very abruptly, and I'm going to take a mental note of that. So I introduced a scenario in the last question where they had a friend who was pre-exposed to strategy games, and I asked, do you introduce them to League of Legends? And they mostly say no, just because they make it seem like, and I'm in agreement, there's a particular type of person for the learning curve of this game that is probably much less common than the scope that Riot Games is trying to advertise. Riot is probably very aware of this, which would explain the recent expenditures and resources towards more casual game modes, such as ARAM, which is on a different map and it randomly selects a champion for you, and arenas, which was requested for a long time and is highly popular and also has a lot of variability. So the non-League of Legends gamer respondents said they spend 3 to 4 hours a day playing, overwhelmingly around 66%. And League of Legends players that I surveyed, half of them said they'd go 2+ games a day. So if that equates them to the 3-4 hour mark, that could be a similar amount of time they're spending investing learning this game as other people are to playing the other. I also made the mistake of asking if they were comfortable sharing their ranks in other games. The problem is that there are a lot of other games with rank systems, and the most popular response was King, which I can only track to a game called Car Parking. So that's what you get. Where things start to get really interesting is their approaches to learning the game. Had a hypothetical set up for them. And their most popular response was similar to the playtime test, where they said, I'll learn as I go. There's something unfamiliar one day and beat it the next. And that's just the nature of the game, so that's really a redundant question for me to ask. But they also thought it'd be insightful to look all the information up while the game's loading or in lull periods of the game, which is also interesting. And also, a lot of them, almost half, said they'd be invested in the pro scene if they were to play it, so they could take notes of the iconic plays that would make it memorable. And then another popular response is similar to League players. They draw similarities in all the abilities and clump the information given to them. So something tells me that these people are pretty pre-exposed to what other games have to teach them with, just maybe not to the same magnitude. So lastly, I mentioned to the general gamers that League of Legends is still significantly growing. Does this affect your desire to play it at all? And 62% of them said yes. So it may be unfair to draw this conclusion, but it's kind of funny. Maybe they don't know what they're getting into. League of Legends players are like, don't. But these people are intrigued by the fact. So there could be some irony in that. So that could be a question to look into in the future, maybe in a future video. When that will be, I might be on a weekly or monthly basis, but it'll happen and I'll have better data, or try to. I have some other ideas lined up too, like looking into pros and what hereditary/upbringing factors got them to where they are. So stay tuned and we'll tackle it in the future. Thank you. Also, the footage in this video didn't make it to the greatest gameplay I've ever built.